you read a scene and you think, oh, okay, I think I understand what this is. And then the reactions they pour out of them and you think, I'd never imagined it being played that way, which is really exciting to be working with actors like that.
Hi, Cate. Welcome to The Awardist.
Hi, thank you.
I want to first congratulate you on these two films that we're going to be talking about now. They're very disparate. It's an incredible season of work. So, and really congratulations on both Don't Look Up and Nightmare Alley.
I feel very fortunate, to be a small part of both,
Let's talk about Nightmare Alley first. How do you think of Lilith, I guess would be the best way to put it? She seems powerful and smarter, I think, than a lot of the characters.
I mean, like all, I suppose, femme fatales, she's deeply ambiguous and unknowable and mysterious. But when Guillermo and Kim were penning this version of the story, they wanted Bradley's character of Stan to feel like he'd met his match. And obviously she's coming at the life of the mind from a scientific, intellectual standpoint, the investigation, whereas he's coming at it as a grifter or someone who's moved through from being a carny to being a grifter and a con man and a trickster.
Are you a true medium?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Carla.
Doctor, how about that?
Please lay down.
Can you read minds?
Yes, I can, under the right circumstances.
Guillermo is very, very big on backstory. So even though a lot of the characters never explicitly mention who they are, what motivates them, what their history is, he absolutely wants all of those characters to be rich and full the minute they walk in the door, and also for them to have a secret that is only shared with him. There's a richness and a texture to her in a way that perhaps there's not in traditional femme fatales. Femme fatales, to me, often are sirens who, and it's always men, draw men to the rocks, but for destructive reasons. Whereas I think Lilith is interested in bringing the system down, and that feels a very contemporary thing for a woman who's suffered extreme pain to want to do.
Did you talk about that? The idea of Lilith being a reader of people, sort of like Stan is?
Definitely. I mean, I think any good therapist, psychoanalyst has to be a good reader of people, and also have a good radar for the truth. And when someone is avoiding the pain of the truth, I mean, confronting the truth is one of the bravest things we can do as individuals, but also as a species, which we're clearly not doing at the moment. But we did, and there were a lot of women alive and active and incredibly influential in the world of psychoanalysis. They're not often the people who are publicly celebrated, or they're not given the kudos that they should have. But Lilith is one of those people, and they meet. I think that there's an acknowledgement of both Lilith and Stan meeting their match. And then I think part of what her function or her drive is in the movie, is in the story, is to get Stan to a point where he has to confront himself. Probably the greatest moment of terror for him in the whole movie, when he has to see who he really is.
If you displease the right people, the world closes in on you very, very fast.
Kim Morgan told me that she actually wrote the script with Guillermo with you in mind. Did she mention that to you?
No, but that's very nice.
I know, right?
Good. I mean, Guillermo and I we've talked for a long time about working together, and so really, like all great directors who ask you to be part of their vision, the role is secondary, and being part of the conversation is the point where you say yes.
A lot of Lilith's lines are still in my head. I think of these zingers that she has that are just so delicious. Like, right? I mean, maybe zingers is the wrong, but I love it when she says you're just an okie with straight teeth, or even at the very end when she's like, I'll live. There is something that's vituperative about the character, but also these are some choice lines of dialogue, right? Have you been deploying them after the shoot to anyone?
No, I'm a goldfish. I swim around the bowl and I forget everything. It's either early onset dementia or I really am. My spirit animal is a goldfish. I wish I could be that eloquent and quick. But Guillermo was he did a deep dive into the patois of the 30s and 40s, and he tried to really pepper the script with words like okie, and I think Willem's character has a lot of that patois in the, so you can think, wow, they're actually speaking another language entirely, which I think for an audience makes you lean in, because you realize that there's a code that they all understand. And that's fine when that code is used, outside society. In the circus has always been on the margins of society, because we know it's a place of mysticism and trickery and people who are not welcomed into the center of polite society. It's when the tropes of the Carney and the language of the Carney come into the place in which we are meant to live and work politely and kindly with one another, that we're in peril.
Since we're talking about language, maybe that's a good segue to Don't Look Up, which is an incredibly verbal performance, and also just I understand that working on that film, as it is with Adam McKay in general, was very improvisatory. Was that the case?
Yeah, I mean, every film is in a way. Because it has to be alive, so it has to be from moment to moment. You have to improvise your way through a moment, even if the lines don't shift. You want every take to feel like it's the framework's there, but something different is being found every time. But definitely, yeah, like Adam would, it was like silent movie making. He would, and it was a bit hard because he was masked and behind his PPE, so you couldn't always understand him. But he would often throw lines in from the side, or just let the take run and run and run. And what was great about it is that, after a few takes, you realised you could go really off-piste, because you might end up somewhere useful, and particularly because that film the absurd became increasingly realistic and possible.
Our guests today have made a pretty big discovery in space.
How big is this thing, though? And can it destroy my ex-wife's house? Is that possible?
There's a 100% chance that we're all going to die.
Hey.
Well, the handsome astronomer can come back anytime, but the yelling lady, not so
much.
It was really strange. My very first day on set was in the Situation Room, and around the table with all those incredible actors, a couple of who I'd worked with before, but some I'd just only admired from afar. And that would have been surreal, in the best of times. But we were working French hours, obviously, so that we wouldn't be filming together, as for as short a time as possible. And in this really airless room, and masks on, PPE on, masks off when we were shooting, and it did feel like we were being rocketed to Mars. It was really an out-of-body experience. I think because none of us had filmed for a year, so maybe it took a little while for everyone to find their legs. But it was just it is such a human medium. It's made by humans for humans, and we were making it in such an alien way, but yet we were incredibly safe and fortunate to be so, and so it sort of it was very surreal.
Brie is just such a dazzling creation, and I just every time you're on screen, I loved it, and I was wondering if she is based on any particular anchors, or what. You don't have to name names if you don't want to, but are there sources though that you can talk about? Perhaps?
No, I didn't meet anyone in particular, but like everybody, you can't help but interface with entertainment news, and the thing is, most of those people who are entertainment news journalists. When I say entertainment, I don't mean shows that talk about film. I talk about news shows that are meant to talk about what's going on in the world. That they usually got 2 or 3 degrees, are incredibly intelligent, and you think, At what point did news become entertainment? And it became, I guess, at the time where news could earn money. I thought about that rather than anyone in particular.
You have some incredible scenes also outside of the studio with Leo DiCaprio and Melanie Linsky, who I think is extraordinary in this movie.
We were in Mrs. America together. I think, I mean, she's one of my favorite characters in the actresses of all time. But as her character and the way she portrays June in Don't Look Up, I think is heartbreaking. Some of my favorite moments are the ones that, scenes that she's in. It was tonally tricky because it's obviously Leo's character Randall has transgressed. He's a good man who's gone against his own better instincts and had an affair. Yet the world is ending, and he's human, and so you're not quite sure who you're wanting to be. You're not who you should be rooting for, and then that's a difficult balance to strike. I mean, my role was slightly easier in that I was just fascinated and interested. It's like, wow, this is what a breakup looks like. There will be a lot of people who are rooting for Leo's character who think, well, you've had an affair, so I don't like you anymore. It's the whole thing about likable characters doing unlikable things. And the great thing about Adam is he's not telling an audience what to think.
What are you doing here, sweetie?
Had a feeling something was going on, and
Well, we're discussing important business. I mean, that's what we're doing.
oh yeah, it's really very important.
Can we just skip past this part, please? Where you get to feel self-righteous and we put our tails between our legs. It is just so boring.
Oh, it's so boring. You want to skip the part where you feel bad for screwing my husband.
I would be remiss if I also didn't ask you about what it was like creating a chemistry with Tyler Perry, your co-host.
He's endlessly surprising I'd never met Tyler before, obviously. Hugely admired not only what he's achieved as an actor, but you look at his studio and him as an employer who's trying to set up a very respectful, inclusive way of making not only films but content. And so I was a little bit not intimidated but nervous about meeting him, and he was just so available and humble and open, and I felt so lucky, because the part that he and I play is obviously quite concentrated and small. It's an important part of a turning point in the narrative for particularly for Randall's character. But it's a small component, and the fact that he came in to play that role and I got the chance to work with him, it was really, really great.
At this point in your career, if there are people that you are hoping still to work with, or directors or work that you have seen from afar and said, oh yeah, I want to be in business with that person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, top of the list comes Jane Campion. I mean, who's from my part of the world, and I haven't had the good fortune to work with her yet. I'd love to work with Josephine Decker and Ari Aster, and I'd love to work with Tyler Perry, in another capacity. Regina King, there's so many people that I would love to work with. I think Maggie's beautiful film, The Lost Daughter, is wonderful. I'd love to work with Liv Ullmann again.